Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1Mby1M Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1Mby1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator for startups. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million in annual revenue and beyond, build $1 trillion of global GDP and 10 million jobs. And in support of that mission, we have been doing these roundtables, these free mentoring sessions, for years now. We started in 2008, September, when my first book was released, and this was kind of an experiment. And then this experiment led us to the 1Mby1M launch at the end of 2010. And now we've been running 1Mby1M for over 8 years, and it's been a very interesting journey of helping entrepreneurs figure out how to put one foot before the other, following in the footsteps of others who have come before. So we are running here a case study-based program where we showcase the journeys of entrepreneur after entrepreneur who have succeeded and have generously come back here to offer you insights into how they have done it. And what we have done is synthesized all this into a curriculum. And a lot of methodology has come out of this process, and that's what we are advising on the basis of. So there is a core methodology that is driving the program, and that's what all the feedback you get here is based on that methodology. And within the program, following that methodology, we've also seen a lot of success stories emerge. So it's a proven methodology. Now, this session is being recorded. Every single roundtable recording is available on the 1M1M Roundtables channel. If you're live tweeting the show today, please use hashtag 1M1M. And our Twitter handles are at 1Mby1M and at Romana. Now, this is a roundtable, not a broadcast. So we do have pre-decided presentations. And we are going to go through those first, and we also have a guest in the middle. We have 2 presentations, guests, then 2 more presentations. But also, we will hopefully have time to chat with you and about your issues, your introductions, and so on and so on and so forth. So let's get started first with, actually, we'll come back to Waikit. We'll start with an entrepreneur pitch series first. Just quick expectation setting. This is a safe working session. You can feel completely not nervous, but secure about sharing your issues, and we are just here to talk about what issues you're dealing with and how you might be able to remove your roadblocks and strategize. Basically, it's a strategy session. If you disagree with what I recommend, that's fine. It's your company. You can do whatever you want. And you know that this feedback is for your consideration. That ultimately you will decide what you want to do with your company. One thing we've learned very deeply through our own methodology development work is that not all businesses can raise money. Not all businesses should raise money. And raising money doesn't guarantee success. So you're going to have to take that fact. This is not a conjecture. This is a fact. You have to take that fact into account in developing your strategy. You can't, for example, you can't predicate your strategy on, I will do this, this, this when I get funded. Well, first and foremost, how are you going to tackle the chicken and egg between where you are and where you become fundable, and somebody agrees to fund you, and what if you are not fundable? So that's kind of our, core expectation setting. I believe we are going to Ram Ramdas first. Hang on, let me proceed to your slides, Ram, and then you can get started. All right, here we go.
Yeah, hi, Shamana and Maureen and everybody there. Good morning and good evening from Mumbai, India. I'm Ram Ramdas. I'm founder of Wonderlend Hubs along with two of my co-founders. So essentially, what Wonderlend Hubs is just about formally completing 2 years, and we are in a kind of a pre-launch phase right now from a commercial launch perspective. We already have 2 paying customers, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But essentially, what Wonderlend Hubs offers is a digital proposition that combines the power of technology and data to enable what we call as point of sale, lending, especially focused on what I would like to call as the next 500 million Indians. And these are what we believe is a population that is creditworthy, but people just don't know how to assess whether they are creditworthy, they are new to credit, they don't necessarily have a lot of the formal financial and other documentation records. And there is a huge interest in India in funding this market. And if India needs to grow at 8.5% year on year over the next 20-25 years, and that's what everybody believes, and that's what we believe here. We believe this 500 million Indian market, from a financing perspective, both from a consumer financing as well as from a small business financing perspective, needs to be really addressed in an effective manner, and that's really what the mission of Wonderlend Hubs is. Essentially, if I were to just summarize in a very short statement, we are looking to enable a seamless, friction-free access, credit decision, credit disbursal ecosystem for retail and small business loans by running what we call as a network of loan ATMs, stroke loan kiosks for our client partners, which are basically financial institutions which are looking to lend to these segments, as well as merchant aggregators who have customers who need finance for buying various products and services that the merchant aggregators offer. And we really are looking to build a fairly large address a fairly large market, about 20% or so of the total retail and small business funding. And in the process, we are also looking to build what we believe to be India's first alternate data credit bureau. Thanks, Ramana, for the next slide. So this is the first flagship deployment. It started at a pilot scale around March of 2016. And in about 6 months' time, our client, which is a NBFC, non-banking finance company, as it's called in India, RBI regulated, was able to expand it to a national rollout, covering, I think, about 800 locations pan India. They do about 60 to 80,000 two-wheeler loans per month today at the point of sale, which is typically the dealer location where the buyer actually buys the two-wheeler. And we are helping them decision these loans on an average 15 seconds, with a machine decisioning now percentage of in excess of 95%. This is our first client, and it has been for us way beyond even what we expected in terms of the success that we could deliver to the client. We have very recently signed up with our next client partner, which is looking to do small ticket personal loans.
Before you move to the next customer, can you talk a little bit about what are the commercials on this deal? What are they paying you? What is the business model that you are validating at this point?
Yeah, so at this point, it was really the first launch from the platform perspective of what we call as the decision and disbursal hub, Ramana. And we are bootstrapped as of now, so we structured the commercial with a lot more front-end payment. So we got a reasonable chunk of license as capex, and thereafter some amount as ongoing support revenue. But our business model is really a subscription from transaction revenue model. And the second client that we have very recently signed up, and it should go operational on a pilot basis in about 8 weeks from now. That's in a complete, the Wonderlend primary, business model of a subscription from transaction fee.
Okay. And this, how much did you get in advance from, like, as a license fee from this client?
Yeah, all in all, for the license, the initial setup and and all the support we gave them till they went the pan India rollout, we would have got about 1.5 crores in Indian terms. I don't know what's the exchange rate, but it would probably work out to about between $250 to $300,000.
Yeah. Okay. And what about the ongoing maintenance?
Yeah, that's roughly today at about 25% of that.
25% of that per year?
That's right.
Okay. So does that cover your, my real question is, has that successfully acted as your seed capital?
Yes. In effect, this revenue was our seed capital, so to say. But we are now in the last 6-9 months, we have become more aggressive in terms of our platform. So today we are burning a little bit more than what this client alone is revenue is able to support us. With the second client that we have signed up, and once that pilot reaches a certain volume, which we expect over a period of about 6 to 9 months, we would be close to cash flow positive on an operational basis.
Okay. Okay. Good. That was my question. Like, it's such a better situation if you do, first couple of deals even in a way that is front-loaded payment where you can get a lot of cash from major customers and you can use that as seed capital, and then you can get into the follow-on customers and you can establish your business model with the follow-on customers, but you can stay solvent with your first couple of customers. That puts you in a tremendously advantageous position. And everybody who's listening to this, pay attention to what Ram is describing and what I'm reacting to. This piece of methodology is something we have seen being successful over and over again.
Yeah, thanks for that comment, Samana. In fact, our existing venture, HealthcareIT, from where Wonderlend Hubs got spun off, we actually have done exactly the same way. HealthcareIT is still, bootstrapped. It has a different, solution, which is what we call a channel, management automation. The core underlying software platform is common across both these, products or both these offerings. And we bootstrapped that offering in exactly the same way. And today, as of March, 2018, when we closed the latest financial year, our annualized run rate has touched a little bit north of $1 million, US dollars, and we are generating a fair amount of free cash flow from that business. 100% of the revenue now is subscription business from the HealthcareIT standpoint. So we have a case study, our own, kind of case study of, having, done that in a different, kind of domain. Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. All right. Let's keep going.
Yeah, thanks. So this, I'll not spend too much, time because, people may be from other domains, so this may not be of too much interest. But essentially, I mean, we are not reinventing the lending, process, right? The lending process has these, elements. There is a dimension of origination. There is a dimension of data aggregation. There is a dimension of credit assessment, and then there is the final, loan decision. What we are, however, doing or reinventing is really how these, steps, can be done, and especially addressed to the, the market of the next 500 million Indians. Because how do you originate, from tier 2, tier 3, kind of towns without a large brick and mortar, infrastructure? So we are, trying to reimagine that process. We are completely reimagining the data aggregation process. So we do have hooks to the traditional data, which is the bureau data, bank, etc. But we are also building our own, as well as with some partners, we are building a slew of alternate data services. and this will expand over a period of time and evolve over a period of time. The first one that we have started building is what we call as the socio-economic profiler, and that's something that we believe can evolve over the next 24 months into what we think can become India's first alternate data credit bureau. We have a very powerful assessment where once the data is originated and aggregated through user-defined credit policies, credit scorecards, which can really address what I would call as a market of one, be able to completely digitally assess and generate a credit report, so to say, of the loan application. And then finally, a decisioning module, which looks at all of this and then decides whether to, what we call as STP, stage through process approval, or an STP reject, or it could go and flow into the manual, credit intervention underwriting bucket. So this is the entire, process, and it's a platform that is not only meant to serve specific credit products. We cut across a whole range, consumer durable loans, unsecured personal loans, could be very small tickets. The latest client engagement that we have signed up is for personal loans ranging from about 10,000 Indian rupees to about 50,000 Indian rupees. So those are really small ticket. I mean, even from an India standpoint. Secured loans, e-commerce loans, MSME loans, supplier finance. So we can straddle a whole range, and that's our vision. But we want to be, kind of in the first 12, 18 months, pick and choose our engagements where we are able to actually, quickly deliver the maximum, value, and then we will the portfolio of the products that we will, support over a period of time. But some of this will also be driven by the traction that we get from the kind of client segments that we are talking to. So we are talking to all practically client segment ranging across all of these products.
So Ram, from a practical strategy point of view, my strong suggestion would be to chalk out a plan within one of these segments. You don't really need to worry yet about the 500 million hard-to-reach consumers and so on and so forth. I think from a business building point of view, you should focus on where you can have the maximum impact the most quickly and build up to $10 million in revenues by addressing a segment where you can get financial institutions to buy into your value proposition and deliver value to them the most, rapidly. That should be your immediate focus area.
I think completely, agree with your perspective. So we had, looked at the consumer durables and small ticket personal loans as the focus when we started with. But as we started talking to, clients, Shramana, this whole, MSME loans, came into this, and there is a lot of interest, especially among the newer, NBFCs who are coming up to address this market. So we would rather be guided by the market, priorities rather than by our priorities. So that's our thinking.
I don't think it's your priorities. I think you need to find the segment that is going to buy your product and pay for your product the fastest. That is what we call market validation. You should be able to, if there are segments that are hard to reach, you're not going to be able to deliver the same amount of value to those segments with the same amount of fluidity. So your pilots are not going to be as successful as quickly. So if you go into segments where you don't have a full handle on how to execute on that segment, this business is not going to grow as fast. Whereas where you can deliver value, whether it's consumer durable or whatever, where you can deliver value very quickly, you go find the clients who are in those segments and address their problems and show them the ROI of how to scale their businesses and how to impact their businesses, how to develop their businesses more profitably. You're going to make a lot more money and build a much more robust company. And that is what is venture fundable. If your end game is to do this on a bootstrap basis, you can do whatever you want. I think good business strategy is to... So let me finish for a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good business strategy is to go where there is velocity in business building. And that applies, that principle applies to both bootstrap businesses and financeable businesses. Now, if you are interested in pursuing this hyper-growth venture-funded model, then you have no option but to go to that strategy. If you are going in a bootstrap route, you have more flexibility because you can choose not to grow as fast. As long as you grow profitably and grow in a robust mode, that's fine. And maybe you have a vision that you have a different vision, that you have a double bottom line objective, you want to impact, less served communities and so on and so forth. You can then make a decision that, okay, we'll do some portion of the business from the high velocity customers, highly profitable customers, and we'll also go experiment with all this other stuff. But if you're trying to build a fundable, venture fundable business, then you need to follow the strategy of going to where the market moves with the highest velocity level.
Right. So I can completely it makes complete sense to me what you say. In fact, with the Herald Logic offering, that's how it started. So we started initially with life insurance companies, then we expanded into other general insurance, then we got other retail banks. So that's how it started. I think the question we are grappling with from a Wonderlend perspective for now is we are seeing fairly almost equal amount of traction across 2 or 3 segments at least. The personal, small ticket personal loans and consumer durable loans, and equally we are seeing traction in small business loans, that's the MSME loans. And some of the people who are pitching MSME loans, they're doing both secured and unsecured. So that's the kind of challenge that we are facing in terms of. So there is traction, but I think it's also going to depend on how much we want to kind of pursue which segment. And given that we are bootstrapped, as long as we are confident that we can deliver.
I think there's 2 decisions. There are 2 factors that will determine that decision. One is how fast can you close the financial institution deals, and 2 is how well your product is capable of servicing those types of loans.
Right.
So you're coming up with this value proposition that you want to deliver. You want to be able to approve loans in 15 seconds. Well, traction, can you deliver to that value proposition? And which segments can you deliver to that value proposition where there is also interest from the financial institutions? That should determine which segments are your priority segments.
Yeah, I mean, based on our conversation with the first set of prospects that we are talking to from a Wonderlend Hub model perspective, I think everybody is interested in being able to actually decision very quickly. But what people are saying is I may not necessarily do it completely machine decision. I want the machine to decision, but I may do the final approval or the final sanction to the customer manually. But I still want the ability to be able to assess digitally and arrive at a machine decision. So that we are seeing as quite common across the board.
So what is the deal that you first presented, the customer that you presented as your opening slide? Are they on a full automation basis, or are they on a automation plus manual basis?
No, they're at a 95% full automation decision in 15 seconds at the dealer, at the two-wheeler dealer location. They started
so
with
if I were you, I would pick the customers who are bought into the full automation value proposition, because that's where your maximum leverage is. So you want smart customers as early as lead users and lead customers. You want smart customers, because it's not clear to me what these other people are going to be able to do in the process. So they're going to basically muck up your storyline. If you are trying to sell that we can evaluate loans in 15 seconds and they insert manual processing in the middle, there's no way any manual process can happen in 15 seconds. It's not even going to happen in 15 minutes. So it basically destroys your storyline right there.
No, so what they are talking is about they want the decision to be done as we do for this two-wheeler, client of ours. But they're saying once I get that, then I will put it, through manual credit intervention till for maybe a period of, 6 to 9 months till I, develop a sufficient, confidence in the ability to actually offer the function.
These are the wrong customers for you, Ram. You need to go to customers who are going to buy into your vision. These are obviously customers who don't buy into your vision. They're the wrong customers.
They are ready to fund, so right? They are ready to, do business with us and fund, right? So they are.
Yeah. So take them as long as they fit your product roadmap, to take them in as opportunistic customers to take their money. But in terms of your strategic customers, you need customers who buy into your value proposition and actually deploy your solution as the real solution. That's so that you can get, what you want also out there. This is what is going to drive the velocity of your business. You want consumer expectations changing out there, where consumers expect 15-second decisions on certain kinds of loans. And those financial institutions that deliver to that are considered better financial institutions than others. And then the financial institutions to compete will have to turn around and come to you for that solution. That's how you develop velocity in a market. The other type of customers who are not going to put you, sorry, come again?
No, I got that, Samna. I understand what you're thinking of.
Okay, so I have to move to the other presenter who's going to go before the guest. So what is your quick question about funding? You should be able to raise money if you want to raise money.
If you go to the next slide, I have 4 or 5 specific questions for you. So one is we do believe that the seed funding will help us to actually accelerate what we plan to do. So my question to you at a high level is do you think with what we have been able to do so far we are ready? We have got
I haven't seen a pitch that is ready. This pitch is not ready for funding. I think your business is kind of ready for funding. Your pitch is not.
Yeah, maybe I'll sign up with you. You could help me, maybe, Samana.
Sure, happy to. That is perfectly doable. Yeah. And positioning, we can also help you with. This project has to be sold direct. There's no option. The kind of deal sizes you're talking about, the kind of, it's new, right? In the Indian context, what you're selling is new, and the deal sizes are large. It's going to have to be sold direct. I haven't looked at your team. I'll be happy to look at that later when we do the presentation, getting your pitch ready and so forth. And you have to frame this as a SaaS business. So it is important that you frame it as a SaaS business and develop with a SaaS business model, and the fact that you're close to converting into a paying customer, one of your SaaS model customers. The first one is your seed financing customers, but the second one is, it seems like it's going to validate your business model. All these are good things, so I can help you package this up, no problem.
That's wonderful, Samana. Thanks for
You're very
your
welcome.
Input and your time.
Okay. All right, Ratnesh, you're very welcome.
Yeah,
Ratnesh,
hello.
Ratnesh.
Good evening.
Go on.
Good evening.
Good evening. Go on.
Hi.
Also Mumbai.
Because of some technical issues, I'm traveling to the north part of the country, and this because the network and data congestion is there. So I was not able to make it the first time.
Go on. Please go ahead with your presentation.
And very good evening to all Indians. I'm Ratnesh. Actually, I have started this healthcare project 2 years back, and the name is the Eugen Healthcare. And Eugen Healthcare is we have started with a very we have bootstrapped the experience professional healthcare. We have piloted in the UP. It's a Uttar Pradesh, is a part of India. It's a very rural mix, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 kind of state with the only 6 people and 2 managers. Now we are at the time of launch. We are very clear that we have to put our small steps, but which will significantly change the life of the Indian healthcare. And in March 27, we have increased with the number of expansion with the 2 different business verticals. One is for acute and one is for B. Acute care is a kind of mixed kind of portfolio which we are dealing. And now we have more than 35 people and 10 managers working with us in the ethical business model, ethical healthcare business model. People going to the doctor, we are getting the prescription sales and we are getting the product sales. And we have some differential we also launched that we will call the India's first product, for which we have approval from many of the authorities like DCGI and all. And we have as a startup, we are getting the licensing from the top manufacturer in India. Now we are coming up with we have 3 projects which we are aiming to look for the Indian market. One is
Ratnesh, hold on for a second. I don't understand your business. Can you specifically address what are you doing right now? What business are you in right now?
I'm into the pharmaceutical business. It's a healthcare business. I'm into the pharmaceutical business. We have one pharmaceutical company. We have created one pharmaceutical company. We have appointed especially the sales team, marketing team, as well as we have a third-party manufacturing core team, which is consisting of medical, sales, marketing, as well as the R&D. And with this, we have started 2 years back.
So you sell medicines?
Yeah, exactly. We sell medicine. We sell medicine. We market the medicines.
And you sell medicines how? Through you have a shop front somewhere? You have a pharmacy somewhere? You have online? How do you go to market?
We have field people. We have a sales team based at the part of the because we have started the pilot. So we have started in the Uttar Pradesh, which is a very dense populated state of the India as a pilot. Now we are having a field of medical representative as well as the managers as well as the zonal sales manager, and they are the sales team is promoting the products to the doctor. Doctors are.
And what are the products?
Products are we have a 35. We have now 44 SKUs, and products are the tablet, syrup, injection, as well as the injections. So higher antibiotic injections we have. So we are promoting. We have a academic relation with the doctor. We are building up the relation with the doctor. We are upgrading them with the recent advancement happening in the Indian market, especially for the in the field of medicine, in the field of surgery. And these people are educating doctors, and doctors are writing our product. So we don't have any pharmacy, we don't have any online, we don't have any established setup. We are promoting to the doctor. We are getting the.
And who develops these products?
Sorry.
Who develops these products? They're your products?
Yeah, these are our products. We have a technical collaboration with the third parties. We are sending our technical guidance to the third party. They manufacture for us. We have our own branding team. We have our own brand management. We have a marketing team. We have and these products are coming to us, and we are promoting to the doctors. And we are getting the prescription sales.
So this acute care and we care are the 2 products that you're selling through this channel that you've developed?
Acute care is a division who is highly specialized in acute segment. Acute is the diseases who are very short span of time, means like is a fever, like it's a cough, cold, dysentery, diarrhea. These are the therapies which we are handling in acute care. The products, the medicines for these diseases are into the basket of acute care. V care is a division who is dedicatedly for critical care management. Critical care means the patient who are going into the ICU, NICU, as well as that some traumatic injury, as well as for the infection. So we have a sales team, we have a marketing team, we have a technical licensing, we have a technical guidelines ready. On the behalf of that, the certified authorities are developing this product. They are sending to us, and we are promoting in front of a doctor, and doctors are writing our product. For this, we are getting.
So these products under acute care and we care, are they your branded products or is somebody else's product that you are basically the channel to distribute?
No. It's our own product. Our own brand management team is with me, and all products are under the Eugen Healthcare. We are not.
And do you need any kind of regulatory approval to do these?
No, regulatory approval is with third party. We are sending the technical guidelines like the what are the composition, how the quality, how we are maintaining the quality, how we are ensuring the quality of the product, because it's all about healthcare. We are into the zero error industry. So we are sending our guidelines to them, and on the behalf of our guidelines, they are manufacturing our product, and we are promoting to the doctor, and we are getting the prescriptions in.
No, I'm hearing all these things about you are giving specifics and they are developing products, but what is I mean, where is the R&D of this? Who is determining, who is approving? Like in America, we have the FDA, right? Drug Administration.
We have two. One is the local FDA, the Food, Drug and Administration Authority, and one is the DGCI, Drug Controller, Government Industry of India. So these are the two authorities which they are approving the combinations, and on the basis of their approvals, we are manufacturing from the third party.
Okay, all right. Keep going.
With this, we have started Bootstrap 2 years back. And now we are having, we are ready with the local investors, which we have a family business. We have getting the permission from local business we got, and then now we are going for the big leap, because last 2 years we are into committed to this bring something for the Indian market, and for this we are targeting the respiratory market. Respiratory is a market which we have the diseases related with lungs, asthma, COPD. These are the actually diseases who are into the market, and we are committed to give some kind of revolutionary product to the Indian market. For this, we are aiming that we are coming with one revolutionary device. Device is a device for which patients can take medicine easily. Lots of devices are present into the Indian market with the leaders. Some exported devices are also coming into they are exported from the outside India, and we have developed one device from past 2 years with the help of a few of my colleagues and one R&D department, which I can say, and we are targeting this specific market to the Indian market, like because respiratory is a 7% death in India, because especially the respiratory diseases. Many of the diseases are there, and the market is very promising. Like if you see the global market, it is expected to grow by 6.5% from next 15 years. But in India, it is expected to grow by 26%, especially. And the rising of respiratory disorders are very high, and the asthma, COPD, as well as LRTI, there are lots of respiratory burdens are going on in India. See, if you see the smoke case study of Delhi, some metropolitan Delhi, this device is going to be one-stop solution for all the patients from mass to class, which we are aiming, which we are targeting. So we are especially into the our product is ready. We are looking how to raise funds now, because last 2 years we have able to build our ethical channel sales. We are able to do the sales marketing. We have departments like medical departments is with us. We have all set of departments which is a need of to start the business, to facilitate the business. Now we are into the take a big leap with this respiratory device, because this device has been, we are into patent is in process from the IIT incubators. This device is going to change the management of respiratory disease in India.
So Ratnesh, I have to be very upfront about this. I do not have experience or expertise in the pharmaceutical market, especially where regulatory issues come into play and so forth. So I don't think I am the right person to advise you on how to bring a pharmaceutical product to market and how to raise funds for it. I just don't know.
Right, but you can suggest me, especially what kind of investor I should look forward. This is seed investor, because lots of things are going on.
People who know this market, I don't. Go do your research and find people. There are people who are specific pharmaceutical investors, healthcare investors, biotech, medical devices investors. You need to find investors like that. This is not our expertise area. We do healthcare IT, but we don't do medical device. We don't do pharma.
Okay, fine. We also have one more question, especially exactly. This is the last slide. Exactly. Last slide. Second last slide. Right business mentors. How to identify the right business mentors for this? Any idea?
I have no idea on this. You should go look, maybe go ask Ty in your area. You're in Mumbai based, right?
Right.
So go to Ty Mumbai and ask for request a mentor through a Ty Mumbai who has experience in pharmaceuticals, maybe?
Okay, sure.
That might work.
Thanks.
You're
Thanks,
very welcome.
Thanks for
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So Maureen, what is going on with Waikit? I saw him coming into the room and then he left. What's going on? All right, so I'm not going to keep everybody waiting. We'll get to him if he comes back. So, Maureen, what would you like me to do in terms of other pitches? Is Gautam Kumar in the room? Are you dialed in? No. Why do you send pitches and then just not show up? It's kind of silly, don't you think? You block somebody else's opportunity to pitch, and then you don't turn up for your own turn to pitch, and you lose forever an opportunity to pitch. If you do this, if you send in your slide deck and then you don't reserve a slot and then you become a no-show, we'll never give you another opportunity to pitch. So you've basically lost in every possible way. What is the point of that? It looks like Anita is not in the room either. This is very upsetting, actually. Well, Tammi Moses, who is here, who wanted to pitch today and was turned away. Tammi, if you want to pitch today, now Maureen is offering to upload your slides. Would you like to pitch? And Waikit says he's rejoining, so we're going to go back to Waikit Lau first, and then Tammi Moses, take your time, figure it out with Maureen if you want to pitch after Waikit. We'll come back to you. Okay. Waikit, are you on the call? Waikit, you need to dial in. So folks, while we are sorting through all these logistics issues, Tammi will be pitching after the conversation with Waikit Lau, and Waikit is dialing in. Feel free to network. There are a lot of people in the room. Each of you are working on something interesting somewhere in some part of the world. So introduce yourself, tell us what you're working on, what your issues are, what roadblocks are you facing, and so on and so forth, okay? Waikit, are you on the call? There's a lot going on in the chat, yes. Sorry, folks, bear with us on the technicalities. It's kind of, doesn't happen very often that people book their slots and not show up, but when it does happen from time to time. I find it incredibly upsetting and irritating, but it does happen.
Hello?
Yes, is it Waikit?
Hello? Yeah, this is Waikit. Can you hear me?
Hi, welcome.
Great. Hang on. Let me turn off. I was
turn on the video.
On
yeah, turn on the video.
Let me turn off my audio on WebEx as well, so there's no feedback. Let me see how I can do that. Stop this. All right, great. All right.
And do you have a video button next to your? Do you see the video button? Do you want to dial into the video? Do you want to turn the video on?
Yeah. Hang on. Can you guys see me? All right, I just turned it on.
We probably will very soon see you. Haven't seen you yet.
I can see myself and I can see you.
Okay, here we go. We see you. Perfect.
Great.
Super. All right. So, folks, we are going to spend half an hour talking with Waikit Lau, who is a very, very, very experienced investor, advisor, and also operator from the industry with a very special expertise in artificial intelligence. Waikit, welcome to the show, and I'm thrilled to have a fellow MIT alum on the call.
Great. Well, so I apologize for the technical difficulties. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about what you've been up to so our audience gets to know you and your background, and then we'll get to what kind of things are you investing into at this point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So very quickly, I'll just give you my background. I'm trained as an engineer, MIT back in the mid-90s. The last 20 years mostly have been in technology. I kind of call myself having a checkered background because I've done pretty much a lot of very different roles in technology. I've started 3 companies. 2 of them got acquired, and I helped take one public back in 2013. I've also spent some time in big tech companies at Cisco. I was part of the Scientific Atlanta group, the IP set-top boxes about 13 years ago. I also spent some time as an investor at Bessemer Venture Partners, again, about 13 years ago. The last thing I did was, so the last company I started was about 10 years ago. It was a company called ScanScout. We applied machine learning to understanding video. So we started around the same time as YouTube. And our thesis was video behaves very differently in search and in ad matching than web pages. So as we suspect video will become popular, this is back in 2005, 2006, you're going to have the same 2 problems, which is you have a search problem, a discovery problem, and then you have a monetization problem. So we basically built a platform that uses machine learning to understand what a video is, and then based on that, be able to inject an appropriate ad, a contextual ad, into the video. So very similar to what AdSense for video would have been. So anyway, we did that. It got acquired in 2010, and then we helped take the acquirer public in 2013. And then in the last few years, been mostly advising, investing in companies. I've started a machine learning, a deep learning community that's grown to about 150,000 people now. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're spending time.
So, Waikit, you missed the early part of this session. This is the world's largest virtual accelerator, global virtual accelerator. We have entrepreneurs from all around the world who participate in this forum, and we have a community of 500,000 people. So either they're entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs or technology industry people. So what I'm going to try to do in the next few minutes is to help our entrepreneurs who are working in your domain understand how you think about investments, how you invest, what you invest in, what your investment thesis is, and where do you think great companies are going to be built in this next generation. So let's start by addressing what you like to invest in, domain-wise and stage-wise.
Yeah, the stage-wise is easy. I find myself most helpful usually very early stages. So anywhere from literally 2 guys with an idea on the napkin, no product, no demos, all the way to basically a classical Series A, right? Product out, maybe some revenues. So early stage is kind of where my focus is. And then in terms of domain, I really don't. I think unlike a lot of investors, I look at everything with the exception of pharma or biotech because I have zero knowledge there. But I have invested in all the way from chips, semiconductor, to software applications, right? And to blockchain-related companies, crypto-related companies. I think to me, it matters less about the domain. I think it's really about the team, the problem, and basically the team and the problems, right? Is it a big enough problem? Is it a problem worth solving? And then is this the right team? Is this the right people to tackle it?
And what about geography? You are based in Boston, right?
Yes, yes.
Do you invest only in the Boston area, or?
No, I don't. So I limit my focus on. So I invest anywhere in the U.S. I've done deals. So over the last 10 years, I've invested in about maybe 50 to 60 companies. And they're all over the place, but they're all in the U.S. They're all in the U.S. Primarily.
Okay. And your average check size is?
It ranges anywhere from 25,000 to 50,000.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about how you operate. So if you put in a 25 to 50K, do you operate with a syndicate that would bring in the rest? Do you lead a syndicate, or do you follow into a syndicate? How do you manage all these? You've invested in 50 companies as a personal investor. What is the process?
Yeah, no. So it really depends on what the entrepreneur wants and needs, right? So it ranges from on one end of the spectrum, they may say, hey, I've got no connections. I'm new to this, but I've got something really interesting. So I essentially help them either put together a syndicate where I run the syndicate, or I introduce them to potential lead investors that I think would gel with them personality-wise and understand what they're trying to build. So I also, in a lot of cases, entrepreneurs already have the syndicate set, or they have a lead investor, in which case I'm just a follower. I'll just write a check for myself. In the cases where I've actually either led or co-led, it runs the gamut, right? I have a angel list syndicate where I've done deals where I run a few $100,000. I run a syndicate that's a few $100,000, or I have also done it outside of angel list syndicate because some entrepreneurs say, hey, I don't really want to do angel list. I'd rather do it outside of AngelList, and I think it's I just basically said whatever you want, I can be helpful.
Okay. Now, what we try to do here is work on a lot of case studies. So before you came in, we were doing basically pitches where we were strategizing on a couple of companies, and people get to listen to how to think about different problems. So in your portfolio, in all the 50 companies that you've invested in, could you take us through a couple of case studies and explain what was the idea that came to you, what stage it came to you at, and what was it that really struck you that this is going to be powerful, this is going to be a high potential technology and business opportunity that got you to invest?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can give you a couple of examples on sort of various stages and feel, in no particular order. So I'll say the first one, it would be that I think is an interesting case study is a company out of MIT, spin out. It's 4 MIT alums. They were students a few years ago. I met them. I was mentoring them. They then got into Y Combinator. The company is called Multiply Labs. This is what they're doing, which is very interesting. So they have figured out a way using off-the-shelf 3D printers to print, and they modify the printer to print pills using FDA-approved polymer, right? So what they can do is they can print a pill with different pockets in the pill, so you can actually have different ingredients in the pill and have different wall thickness of the pill, so it actually have different release schedules, right? So it's really interesting. No one has done this before, and essentially what they've built using that platform is an assembly line to 3D print at volume pills. They're starting off with dietary supplements. Obviously, where this becomes huge is pharma applications, right?
Insulin and all that, yeah.
Exactly. So now it takes a long time, right, to go through the pharma process. So the dietary supplement piece is sort of the low-hanging fruit and kind of where they're focused on to get the scale and prove that this works. So in that case, when I saw them, I was mentoring them. I thought this is really interesting, and then they got into Y Combinator. This is one of those cases where I was a follow-on investor. Right. And when they had lead, I said, I'm in. I love what you guys are doing. I think it's a big problem. And more importantly, they are the right team to solve it. It's essentially 2 PhDs in mechanical engineering and pharmacology, and then they had 2 Sloan MBAs out of that as well. So that's kind of the 4-person core team. It was a well-rounded team. So that's one example. Another example is a company called Swirls. It is, I got introduced, and this is one of those cases where, like 2-3 degrees of separation. I got introduced to them by an ex-board member of mine from the last company. And when they came to me, it was literally 2 guys with a white paper, right? They have some demos, some code. Okay. And this is in the crypto space. They've essentially invented a better mousetrap for consensus algorithm, right? So you look at Ethereum, Bitcoin, and all that stuff today, which is huge, but they still suffer from a lot of technical challenges. The performance is actually fairly low, right? So, Ethereum can do 15 transactions per second, right? Relatively speaking, if you look at Visa, right, which is Visa is a huge company, right? Visa can do up to 50,000 transactions per second. But Visa is not decentralized, right? It doesn't run on a decentralized infrastructure. So what these guys have done is they've built a platform, an algorithm, a technology that can actually, in some ways, the best analogy I can think of is if you watch Silicon Valley, the show on HBO, the Pied Piper, the new internet. So this is what, in real life, what these guys have solved, literally a new consensus algorithm to build a new internet. And it's funny, when I watched the show, I'm like, holy crap, this is the technology is called Hashgraph. It's called Hashgraph, and I'm like, this is it. So this is one of those funny cases where it's sort of like life imitating art, and so and they have since. So I invested in them a year ago. In the last year, they have since gotten a lot of buzz. So again, the company is called Hashgraph. I've gotten a lot of buzz, and again, they knocked on a number of doors in the beginning, and a lot of them was my introductions, and a lot of people it was hard to understand, right? It took me a couple of weeks to really truly grasp sort of the importance of what they're doing. So anyway, so that's another example. So those are kind of two examples. They're sort of very different tenor. So in that example.
Yeah, what was the stage at which you got involved, or how did the project move?
This was, I think I was, in this case, I think I was the third or the fourth check into the company. I mean, literally, I was so early, there was no lead. They raised a little bit of angel money before. I just basically said, I like you guys so much. I like your personalities and team and your technology so much that, you guys I will help you find a lead, and you guys will be able to find a lead, but, I'll write my check now. I'm just, I'm not going to wait because I think you guys are doing something really interesting. Yeah, so for them, it's very early, right? So for them, it's literally two guys with a white paper and some code, and that was it.
Excellent. What's very inspiring listening to you for this community is that we constantly these days see investors, including angel investors and these micro VC funds, who are all wanting to come in after there is validation and many after there is some traction. So there's business model validation, there's clearly a product in place, there are customers who are buying it, and blah, blah, blah. And when you're developing complex technology and especially making some very serious technological breakthroughs like the kinds you're describing, the two examples you gave are like hardcore technology areas, it's not so easy to get to check all those boxes before going out to raise financing. You need financing to get to those checkpoints. And it's very nice to see that you're working in those phases.
Yeah, so what I tell these guys, by the way, when I kind of do the check before the lead comes in, so the one thing I do ask them to promise me, and I do kind of sit down with them to make sure that we do agree on it, is to make sure that whatever their financing plan, it is well capitalized. And I've made plenty of investment mistakes where I would write the check, and it turns out they ended up undercapitalizing, right? So they don't have enough runway to get to the milestones for the next round. So what ended up happening was that whatever money they've raised in that round it just gets wasted. They couldn't raise the next round. They have to shut down. They have to shut the company, right? So a lot of these, I mean, these are like things that you learn early on, in angel investing, the mistakes you make, right? So one of the things I always tell these guys early on is like, guys, let's work through your financing plan, and let's look at your product milestone, your customer, whatever milestone that might be that allows you to raise the next round. It's very simple. Let's work backwards, right? Let's work backwards, how much money you need, what's your burn, and then let's just add 6 months of buffer, seasonality and whatever, and then that's the amount that you need to raise. And for me to write a check now, I need you to promise me and look me in the eye that this is the amount you're gonna raise.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially, we kind of, in our methodology, we differentiate between lean startups and fat startups. There are certain companies that can be built as lean startups, and that can get to validation, traction, adoption quickly, and with small amounts of capital. And there are all sorts of bootstrapping techniques that we are using. We were earlier, before you came on the line, there was a presentation from Ram Ramdas, who actually has a question for you in public chat, who presented a very interesting FinTech company in India that actually took a first customer in for a couple of $100,000, about $300,000 of upfront license fee payments and plus maintenance, which allowed them to basically use that as seed money. That's fine. Those kinds of strategies for bootstrapping are fine, but if you're going the route of raising money from investors, and if you don't capitalize it enough in a fast startup scenario, that is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have a couple of questions from the audience, Waikit. One is, I think actually Ram Ramdas is asking you, do you invest in Indian startups focused on solving problems in the Indian market, but related to your domains of interest?
Yeah, no, short answer is I don't. And the reason is, I mean, I find that, startups in different countries, I think startups in different countries are very different, right? I think you even see the differences between, startups in the West Coast in Silicon Valley versus startups, if you're building a startup in, the Southeast, right? And they kind of take on very different tenor and cultural differences. Not that one is better, one type is better than another, but it's just that even with that, I sometimes kind of struggle with like understanding sort of, their way of doing things. Yeah, with international startups, number one, I can't be as helpful. Beyond the check. I think number two is I just don't really understand the cadence, right? So I don't. So I generally just kind of, yeah.
So Ram, just an adjoinder to Waikit's feedback, there are very specific investors, both angel investors as well as micro VCs and VCs who will invest in Indian startups. So we have all those contacts. So as long as you're working within the 1 million by 1 million framework, we will introduce you to the right people. Waikit, the next question you have is from Jimish Shah, and he's asking, my question for you is, how do you find the right team when you just have an idea? And I think Jimish is asking this question from an entrepreneur's point of view. So if you could answer him with your entrepreneur hat on, that would be great.
Yeah. That's the $64,000 question. That was a $6.5 million question, right? I mean, I think team formation. Forget team formation. I think how do you find your co-founders, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest thing. This is where I think, sometimes if you want to do something, you want to start a company with an idea. You have to be thoughtful, right? I generally do not recommend people doing it alone. I mean, unless you're kind of like jack of all trades and you can kind of deal with the ups and downs, and just a lot of emotional ups and downs. And it's good to have another person to kind of bounce things off of. So I think my advice to entrepreneurs is always that, whether you're a tech guy or a business guy, find your soulmate in some ways, right, in business, right? If you're a business guy, find your counterpart on the tech side. Or if you're a tech guy, find your counterpart on the business, right? I think to me, sometimes you just need, one other co-founder, and that's it. It's a founding team. Sometimes you need two, depending on the types of project and complexity. But I think a lot of this is making sure that, you mind your past network. I think this is where your past experience comes into play, right? Like who you have worked well with, that you can rely on, that you kind of have a very similar mindset and value system. I think that's really important. I think there are two reasons why startups don't make it, right? Number one, they run out of money. And I think number two, the founders give up. And a lot of times, the root of founders giving up is just the founders don't get along, right? So I think that's really important. I mean, especially you're going to spend more time with your co-founder than your spouse, likely. So, so I think it's non-deterministic. I would say invest time, going out, network, meet people. Don't jump into bed super early. If you find someone that you're excited about, maybe spend a few months just working with them and see how that pans out before you split equity or whatever, right? I think it's important to just kind of test things out and have a honeymoon period.
So again, I will make one comment based on what you said, Waikit, on this topic. We are seeing a very big uptick in solo founders getting to $1 million in revenue right now. And it's typically not the kinds of companies that you described in your portfolio, this very heavy technology company, and these are not the fat startup style of companies. These would tend to be coming from the lean startup area, but it's an unusually prolific time for solo entrepreneurs as well, and with very little money and using a bunch of freelancers, offshore resources, and so forth, you can actually put together companies these days that will get you to $1 million a year and
Absolutely.
beyond. I mean, it's unusual, really interesting what's happening. One of our case studies that I've always loved, and I found it inspiring myself, is a company called Fine Art America, and you can go look at it on the blog. It's a company that had just 3 people, and they were doing $5 million a year, which is unbelievable level of scaling with very, very economic.
These are my favorite kind of companies. These are my favorite kind. So this is what I tell people, right? This is what I tell people, right, guys? Like this whole idea of raising money, and it's like that shouldn't be your first choice. You know, the best kind of financing is from your customers, right?
Customers, absolutely.
Why do you want to sell pieces of your company if you don't have to, right? I'll give you another example along that line, right? Like there's so many open source software today that, you know, you can scale, you can build a lot of stuff just with a very limited number of people, right? Maybe even one person, right? This is my favorite case study. There's a company called Built With. It's out of Australia. It's by a gentleman called Gary Brewer. And to me, he's sort of like the extreme classical case. One guy built this business over a period of 10 years. I believe his run rate right now is about 12 million a year.
There you go. Wow.
There you go. Yep. One guy. And I think he's got half a person in London that does content marketing, that, you know, blogs and stuff like that. That's it. And my guess is that, like, his stuff is so automated. I think he works like 4 hours a day. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't need investors. You don't. This is sort of like, you know, to me, once you get a company to that stage, that's the ideal makeup, right? Because then, if you wanted to raise money, you control all the cards. You want to raise money at a higher valuation to kind of blow this up, you can do that. But if you want to keep it a lifestyle business that just, you know, spews off cash, you can do that too.
Right. And in the 1 million by 1 million program, we are actually completely inclusive of those companies that want to build bootstrapped and to those even solo entrepreneurs getting to $1 million, $2 million, $5 million kind of range. You don't have to go from 0 to 100 million in 5 to 7 years, which is what VCs are looking for, but you can, you know, build businesses, successful businesses, other ways as well. There is actually quite a lot of questions. We can come back to questions a bit later, but Waikit, do you have time to listen to an entrepreneur pitch?
Sure. Yeah, fire away.
All right. So Tammi Moses, you are going to be pitching next. So if you're on the phone, please go ahead and start your pitch. So Tammi, we're waiting for your pitch. In the meantime, we'll take one more question from the public chat. Christopher Lee is asking, do you have a minimum TAM or SAM you use before investing?
A minimum total addressable market?
Yes.
Okay. Not real. I mean, not real. I mean, you know, obviously, the TAM, I need to have a comfort that the TAM needs to be in the, you know, billions of dollars eventually. But to be honest, a lot of the stuff that I invest in, right, they're so new, they're literally inventing a new space, right? Like, you know, the pill printing company, right? I mean, there's no pill printing industry right now, right? So they're kind of like this, you know. So to me, the hard TAM is less of an issue. I just need to know that they're solving a problem that is eventually is going to be big enough, you know, hitting $1 billion.
Yeah. So I think, you know, the broad answer to your question, Christopher, is that most professional investors, where it's not friends and family investors, but investors like Waikit or other angel investors, other VCs, they will all look for a minimum $1 billion TAM, because if you want to go from 0 to 100 million in 5 to 7 years and get a good percentage of the market, you do need that kind of a TAM to build that kind of trajectory. All right, Tammy, are you on the call?
Hello, yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you so much for fitting me in today. So my name is Tammy, and I have a company called Homes Are for Living, and I am working on the issue of hoarding, otherwise known as excessive clutter. And the reason I started this company is because I have experience growing up in a hoarded home, and that was a very lonely journey as a kid. And when I started looking at starting a business, some of my early mentors suggested that I might explore how to turn that awareness into a business.
And what is a hoarded home?
A hoarded home is basically a place where you cannot function. So, for example, someone may have a house that's full of things, and they cannot navigate through that house. They may have a shower that is their closet, or they may have, well, what's called goat paths through their home, making an extreme fire hazard to be living there. And yes, basically people who collect things.
It sounds like a complete nightmare. It just makes me feel stressed out just listening to you.
I'm sorry?
The kind of household you're describing, it makes me feel stressed out just listening to you.
It is very stressful. It's actually quite horrifying sometimes to go into a home or see pictures of a home and think that people think this is an acceptable way to live. And
so what are you planning to do? What do you propose to do for these kinds of homes?
So what I have been doing is a lot of one-on-one work with people that have extreme clutter. However, there is so much greater need than just little Tammy going to people's houses and helping them one-on-one. And so my objective is to be doing more education and training to the people who are coming into contact with this situation on an almost daily basis. Just about a week ago, there was a person who died in their hoarded home in New York, and the reason that person died is because the first responders, the firefighters, couldn't get to them. And in that process, five firefighters were injured trying to get this person out. And so there's a lot of...
So Tammy, we're kind of in the interest of time, I would like to give you some pointers on how to sort through this problem. I think you're identifying a good problem, but based on what I'm seeing on this target customer slide, it's a little bit all over the place. So can you find one problem and one set of target customers whose problem you can solve in a scalable manner, at least somewhat scalable manner? You know, you want to go beyond little Tammy going to people's houses and coaching them to something more scalable. So let's figure out one type of, if you're talking about adult kids of parents that hoard, that's a segment. Youth living in a hoarded house is a segment. Agencies is a segment. Firefighters is a segment. You can't solve all of their problems. So figure out which of these do you want to solve and come up with what that solution looks like. And in your case, based on where you are right now, I think you need to go through some level of training in how to position a company and how to put one foot before the other in how a company is built. And if you just hang on for a second, I'm going to explain how to use 1 million by 1 million to do that, to plug those methodology gaps. There is very clear methodology that you can apply to, plug your knowledge gaps at the moment. So, what I see here is too many segments. You have way too many segments, and I don't think this is going to be manageable. As a business building process, it's not going to be manageable. So you're going to need to, yes, you need a better strategy. That's exactly right. You need a better strategy, and for that, you need to educate yourself a bit more about how to develop that strategy. That is what I would suggest as your next step. So
thank you.
Your clients, your customer validation work, most of your clients have been word of mouth and you've been doing organizing work. Now, that's fine. You've done organizing work for 10 clients. Maybe organizing work is where you want to start and figure out what does it take to create a scalable process where you can bring together people who want their household clutter to be sorted out and people who are skilled, trained and skilled to sort through household clutter in a professional manner. Maybe that's the positioning you start with, and start developing the strategy of how to build that business. And there are tools of how to do that, and I will explain to you what those tools are in a moment, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, so folks, I'm going to move us to a small segment explaining to you how we do 1 million by 1 million, and then we can come back to questions. So just give me a second to advance to the slides since we've gone back and forth trying to adjust the schedules. And before we do that, by the way, please refer people to 1 million by 1 million, people who are looking for help. And it doesn't matter how small, it doesn't matter how early stage, idea stage, napkin stage, no problem. Just as Waikit pointed out, early stage is just fine. We are very happy to work with very early stage entrepreneurs. In terms of resources, everything is at 1Mby1M.com. You'll find a blog where you'll find tremendous amount of free resources to learn from. Just by reading the blog on a regular basis, you will learn a lot. The Entrepreneur Journeys book series, there are 12 volumes of case study-based books. And each book has 12 to 16 case studies on specific topics. You could be working on positioning, you could be working on billion-dollar unicorns, you could be working on cloud businesses, bootstrapping with a paycheck, bootstrapping using services, whatever. These roundtables happen every week. We have had over 75,000 people attend these roundtables, participate in these roundtables, and there have been more than 400 of these. Our full acceleration program is 1M by1M Premium, and there you get extensive methodology guidance, a curriculum, an online curriculum that is case study based, and you get support with business development, strategy consulting in roundtable formats like this, private versions, and we also help you with financing and media relations. All of you who are working on strategy, go to the 1M by1M self-assessment. It's a free strategy questionnaire available on the blog. And you get to ask these questions of yourselves. These are questions that investors would typically ask you, but it's better that you ask these questions of yourselves and create your self-guided strategic plan. If you run into methodology gaps, Tammy, this is a perfect questionnaire for you to go and put yourself through. If you run into methodology gaps, go do 1M by1M basic for a month or whatever amount of time you need to, and plug the curriculum, plug the methodology gap by going through the curriculum. That will, very, very crisply, very efficiently address your needs for knowledge gap plugging. So anyway, go through the website. It's very comprehensive. It explains what to expect from the program, lots of FAQs, video FAQs, lots of description of what to expect in the curriculum. The case studies include over 800 successful entrepreneurs. That includes 50+ unicorn entrepreneurs, 400+ venture-funded companies, 350+ bootstrap success stories. So you get all sorts of methodology guidance through these case studies and video lectures. Our methodology is lean, capital efficient bootstrap startups. We do sometimes do fat startups, but the vast majority of the companies that in the industry as well as here in the program that go through our bootstrap first, raise money later kinds of situations. But as I mentioned before, in our methodology, we do distinguish between lean startups and fat startups. Certain companies cannot be done as lean startups, and you have to be cognizant of that. So that's it. Upcoming free roundtables, pretty much every Thursday in July we have one. So book your slot, and I'll be happy to work with you. We also have in-person rendezvous at Cafe Boroni in Menlo Park. The next one is July 11th, after the 4th of July break. Then we have July 25th, August 7th, and August 29th. That's it. We can go back to questions. Ask questions. Waikit is still here. You can ask questions from him. You can ask questions from me. You can introduce yourselves, talk about your issues, whatever it is that you would like to discuss. We still have Q&A time. Bama Venkat is asking two questions: how to do market validation and how to market validate an idea in the B2B sector. Bama, I would recommend that you do this as a curriculum module. There's a whole curriculum module on this topic. So I think the most efficient thing would be for you to go and do the curriculum module. We can't really cover that much material in 2 seconds here. And then the other question is, what do you think is the scope of blockchain-based philanthropy by corporates? This is not a problem businesses sweat over, but it's sort of efficient to have service. So I'm wondering what's the amount of impact this product and corporate philanthropy can create. Love to know your opinion. Again, I suggest, Bama, go to the self-assessment questionnaire. It's a free questionnaire on the website. Take your idea, put it through that questionnaire, and try to flesh it out. And then when you're ready with a little bit of material, you don't have to have all of the questions answered. If you have a little bit of material sorted out, come back and pitch. So we can actually go through point by point, but I would like you to do a little bit of prep work before that. Shankar Bhattacharya is sending me a private chat asking, are there any case studies related to startups in the field of education delivery? So Shankar, in the curriculum, we have a whole elective module. So the curriculum is divided into core and elective. In core, you do 7 modules, basically: bootstrapping, positioning, market sizing, customer validation, customer acquisition, team building, and financing. And then there's a whole bunch of electives. That includes an elective on online education. So there's a whole lot of case studies and a whole lot of material on the field of online education and ed tech in general. Waikit, I'm going to turn it back to you and offer you, a chance to put some closing comments, offer some closing comments to the audience on, guidance, whatever you think they should know about from your point of view, from what you have seen, what you are guiding your entrepreneurs that you're mentoring on.
Yeah, I mean, I think to close, what I'd say is that building a company, success in building a company could come in infinite shape and sizes, right? Raising a lot of money in the beginning, it may not be right for you, may not be right for a lot of businesses. There are many paths to success. But the key thing is to make sure that you focus on the 1 or 2 or the 3 things, a small number of things that you think is going to validate your idea, is going to drive the business forward. So I always think, like, what is it, like, ultimately, what matters, right? Revenue matters, right? Or users matters, right? So, ignore the noise. Just focus on, You know, if you're selling something, if you're an enterprise customer, you know, if you're an enterprise company or what have you, you're selling a service or a product, you know, all that matters is that people buying your stuff, using your stuff, right? So I would say don't get too lost on I didn't raise money and therefore I couldn't build my stuff. Right? There are many entrepreneurs and guys who, for example, the Atlassian guys in Australia, right, bootstrapped their company. The GitHub guys bootstrapped their company. Spanx, the woman who did the I don't know what you call Spanx, but the garment, right? She bootstrapped it, right? There are many ways to kind of have mini milestones and push the ball forward, 10 meters and 10 meters and 10 meters. So, so if there's one thing I want to leave everyone with is, it's not black and white. It's not like, oh, I have to raise money in order for me to do this. I think that's the worst mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs fall into.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is completely, what you said is completely consistent with the 1M philosophy, where there are many ways of being successful and there are many different blueprints of success, and you have to define what success is for you and follow accordingly. A few more questions. Ram Ramdas, your question is, can both of you talk about your views on value versus valuation? Ram, unfortunately, it's the big topic, cannot go into it right now. There's a whole module on financing that discusses this kind of stuff. So if you do go through the program and do the curriculum, you'll have lots of input on this subject. And then Christopher Lee is asking, I get that there are lean companies that can bootstrap and hypergrowth companies that have $1 billion TAMs that need $1 to 10 million, 1 million to 10 million in funding from VCs. That is not what we said, Christopher. Not all hypergrowth companies need financing to grow. We've seen plenty of hypergrowth companies. Zoho is a wonderful example of a product that has gone on hypergrowth mode without any financing whatsoever. We've seen, Atlassian has done a very nice job of bootstrapping, and they've basically gone public with very little in outside financing. There are many companies like that that do just fine without outside financing. When I said lean startups versus fast startups, there are certain companies that where before you can sell anything, you have to build a large chunk of technology, and this is deep technology, or you have to hire very expensive engineers and so forth. Those are the kinds of companies that are harder to bootstrap. That's the point we were making. Both of us talked about that, and that's really what we were talking about. The rest of your question is, however, the space of startups is not binary. What about the companies that have 200 million TAM and require, say, 100K to 500K? Yes, so this actually used to be kind of like a dead zone. Nobody was investing in this space where you have a $200 million TAM and you can build a company with 100K to 500K in investment. However, there are investors that are starting to surface who have identified this gap and are coming into this space. So my recommendation to you is, if you follow, go to the seed capital section of our blog. And in there, there's a whole lot of investor interviews, both in text format as well as in podcast format and roundtable format. We've had many investors in these roundtables who fall into this category. So we do have coverage of this category. And again, if you were in the premium program, we would be able to direct you, to the categorization and everything of those who are willing to do these kind of non-unicorn VCs, I call them, who operate in this mode. So yes, your point is very correct, and there are investors who are coming into that. Folks, we are approaching the end of the session. One last introduction for you. Irina Patterson will be happy to speak with you if you have other questions about the program itself. Please feel free to contact her at irina@1mby1m.com. And that's pretty much it for today. Waikit, thank you for staying and talking to the audience for the whole time. And thank you, audience, for participating today. We will see you soon. We'll see you next week.
Great. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.